Hello, and welcome to Social Workers Rise, where we inspire social workers to connect, expand their knowledge, and change more lives than they ever thought possible. We will talk everything social work on every level from micro to macro. We are going to hear stories of social workers who are doing big things, learn new skills, and most importantly, give you actionable steps to make a difference today. Let's go. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Social Workers Rise. It is your host, Catherine here. I am excited to share a little bit about what I do on a daily basis with you as a private practice telehealth therapist. Before we get into that, I want to just give you a few reminders. One, make sure if you are involved with clinical supervision in any way that you know about the RISE directory, which is a directory of clinical supervisors for social workers and mental health professionals. So make sure you check it out. There's tons of free resources on there. If you are a supervisor, we want you on there. And if you are someone looking for a supervisor for your clinical hours, definitely go check it out. You can see people who are open for internships, who are open to hiring in their private practice. And by the way, if you are interested in a private practice setting, definitely listen to the end of this episode, because I'm going to be going over what it is that you need to know, kind of what a day in my life looks like, what kind of pay can you expect, if this is for you and if this is not for you, and your next steps to get started. So let's hop into it. I have heard that a lot of people going into social work are going into this field specifically to become a private practice therapist. Now, I have some opinions on this particular fact. One, if you are coming into social work specifically only to do private therapy, then it might not be the field for you, because we are very much social justice oriented and working in communities and community based. So if that is your only goal, it might be a little hard. And I'm going to explain why. Because as a social worker, it's really important to get the foundation of community work, right? So, and I know you're not going to want to hear this, but just hear me out, okay? Because I know that you might be going through your internships super frustrated. Like, why can't I just intern in a private practice? That is what I want to do. I want to sit on a couch across from somebody and listen to them tell me their life story, right? So the reason why that's going to be difficult to do is, one, a lot of times there's not internships available in private practice settings because they want you to be out in the community. And that's a really good thing. It is so important to have that experience being in the community. Okay, hear me out. So I worked for a long time in different settings. So I did a couple years in affordable housing, working with families, seniors, children, did an after school program. I worked at a food bank doing nutrition education. I've done a lot of work within medical social work, working in hospice, going to people's houses, going to different medical centers, going to different skilled nursing facilities, talking with nurses and doctors and families and community partners, program leaders, interdisciplinary teams, right? So I did all of this work, a lot of micro work, a lot of meso, a little bit of macro. I wrote some policy for Sacramento around elder abuse. Of course, I did lobby days 3 times because I love lobby days. And so just having a full range of experiences, this foundation of working in the community, seeing what's going on a day-to-day basis for people who are involved in different systems, right? Affordable housing, school, policy, policy creation, right? Medical settings. It gives you a background view and insight into what your clients are going through. So I feel like the reason why I am a good teletherapist right now is because I know the questions to ask, because I know the challenges that people in these different systems are experiencing, right? So, with that said, do not get frustrated that you have to, quote, have to go into the community and you're not in a private practice setting. There's so much gold to be found in these experiences, and really, really maximizing on your learning about the psychology of your clients, about interventions that are working and don't work with your clients, right? Where are the holes in the system? Where are the gaps? How can you help them not slip through the cracks, right? This is all that you need to learn. So, backtrack a little bit more about me. I work as a teletherapist. I'm based out of California, and I've been social working since 2009, and I've been doing straight teletherapy for about 2 years now. And so I don't have my own private practice. That is not my jam. I don't want to be dealing with insurances or billing. So that's why I choose not to start my own private practice, and I leave that to somebody else, right? So right now I'm contracted with I call it a mom and pop private practice, because it's exactly what it sounds like, right? It's owned by an individual therapist and her husband. They're super great. I love working for them. And they do the marketing, they do the billing, they do the insurance things. I don't even know what that's involved. They do all the setup, right? They even have an in person office that I do not go to, but it's there, right? They do the whole shebang. And me, as one of the therapists, just kind of show up, do my job, submit my notes, documentation, and that's it, and close my computer up at the end of the day. And that's what I like, right? You might have the goal of opening up your own private practice. This episode is not going to tell you how to do that. There are plenty of coaches and mentors that are in that field. That is not my jam, right? The other way that I work as a teletherapist is through a bigger organization. You may have heard of the organization called PATH. They have switched their name to Rula. And so that is who I work with now. So I do two different, I have the private practice, and then I also do the major company and organization too. The big differences that you need to be aware of is, if you are going in and say you want to start with a private practice and work for them, even as an associate, you can get hired at a private practice. For example, I do clinical supervision for the associates that work at the mom and pop private practice. And so that is possible. However, what you do need to be aware of is the pay and the income, right? So what I have seen as an expected amount of pay for this type of work is starting at $35 an hour, like a client session hour, up to $90 an hour if you're licensed, right? So obviously, if you're an associate, you're going to be making less money than if you're a licensed therapist. So starting at $35 an hour, up to $90 an hour. And then the sky is the limit if your private practice is accepting private pay clients. So it can go above 90 per client hour, meaning this is not salary. You have to be working these hours. Sometimes if your clients don't show up, you might not get paid. So that is something to be aware of as well. So what this equals out to is, if you are making, say, $35 an hour or a little bit more, whatever, right? If you're working 40 hours a week, this generally comes out to about $80,000 a year, which is pretty good. However, I would caution you against the 40 hours, because that's a lot. A lot of the full-time teletherapists or full-time therapists that I know that do private practice, they're kind of maxed out at 20, 25 clients a week. And so really take that into consideration, because 40 hours of client face-to-face time is a lot of energy going out, a lot of concentration, a lot of sitting on your butt, just listening, right? So really take into consideration that. And when you're getting hired, You want to know how many client hours are you going to get per week and how much are you getting paid for that, because it may, in fact, impact whether you can actually work for that company or not, if you can swing it financially. So, a lot of times, what people do is they will start with a private practice super duper part time, meaning they'll take on maybe 2 or 3 clients in the evenings or on the weekends to supplement their full time job. So, I want you to know, because a lot of times when people just hear, oh, 80,000 a year, yeah, sign me up. uh, there's some details in there that you need to be aware of before you jump right in, right? So this work is not for everybody, and let me explain. Hey, it's Catherine here. I hope you are enjoying this episode. We're going to take a quick break to listen to these ads from our sponsors. Have your clients had a hard time finding a therapist through their health plan? The National Union of Healthcare Workers is the nation's largest union of private sector behavioral healthcare providers and a leader in the fight for mental health parity. This year, NUHW is working with allies to ensure that health plans maintain accurate, up-to-date listings of in-network providers. By eliminating so-called ghost networks, we can ensure that patients get timely access to care by finding mental health providers who are actually available and covered by their plan. Learn more at nuhw.org/networks. The next time you need continuing education units, I highly recommend the Therapist Development Center. When I started this podcast, I reached out to the founder, Amanda Rowan, to see if she was interested in being a sponsor, and she jumped at the chance to support her fellow social worker. TDC has helped more than 100,000 social workers pass their licensing exam, including myself. I love that TDC CE courses are engaging and relevant. Amanda and her experts give us clear and practical clinical skills that we can immediately apply to our work. Some of my favorites are the Edge of Life Suicide Prevention course, where Amanda shares her personal experiences, and their They Did What? Law and Ethics course that looks at real cases where therapists face formal disciplinary actions. They also have a great telehealth course. We are legally required to take continuing education to increase our competence, and most other courses out there don't actually teach the material in a way that we can learn it, but TDC does. You can also check out the links in the show notes. This work is for you if you enjoy working from home like I do. So, for example, I loved working in the community when I was younger, when I didn't have a kid, when I just had all the energy in the world. I like driving around. I like seeing the different neighborhoods. I'm a foodie, so I love going to lunch at different places, working at coffee shops. I love it. Loved it, right? But things changed after I had my daughter, and I wanted to be home more. I didn't want to be out in traffic anymore. It was exhausting, and I wanted to be able to pick her up from school and be readily available. So now working in the community wasn't such a good fit for me anymore. So if you are thinking about teletherapy, consider that you're going to be working from home. You're going to be alone most of the time. So, yes, your clients are on your computer, but that doesn't replicate real human interaction and real conversation with people who are not just telling you all their problems, right? So, this is not the place to come if you want that social interaction, right? The other thing, this is for you if you are disciplined in your work. If you can create your own schedule and stick to it, if you are able to write your notes, get them in on time, because there's not your boss looking over your shoulder and saying, hey, did you get those notes in on time? I mean, maybe if you're private practice is kind of micromanaging and that's what you like and need. But for the most part, you need to be disciplined enough to make sure that you are doing your documentation, you're doing it correctly. So you need to have that training too and those foundational skills around what that looks like. Because if your notes get subpoenaed and called to court, if your client completes suicide, they're going to be looking at you. And you want to be confident that you did your job, that you know what you're talking about, that you know what you're doing, and you have the skill set, right? If you question these foundational skill sets of documentation, a proper assessment, utilizing CBT, right? Cognitive behavioral therapy in session, I definitely encourage you to check out the course. I'm going to put a plug here, the Clinical Essentials for the Future Therapist course. This course was made for you. It's made for new social workers who want to be therapists, but need that additional foundation and that additional training to do the assessments, to do your documentation, to make sure that you sound professional. So in case your coworkers read it, or Lord forbid you get summoned to court and they read your notes out loud, that your notes don't sound like something like, I saw this note once. It was a therapist listen to client vent and complain about their relationship and just validated that they're keeping it real, right? So something like that, that's not going to sound very professional. You need, even though that's exactly what you're doing, right? But you need to make sure that you're documenting correctly and really showing that you're making work, that your client is making progress or they're not. And why are they not making progress, right? Because if not, you could be charged with fraud. And that is also not a good thing. So just to recap, if you're considering teletherapy, this is for you. If you like to work from home, if you like to work alone, if you are well disciplined, and if you have experience within the field. And I talked about that experience within the field a little bit earlier. It's so that you know what systems your clients are in, so you know what questions to ask, so you know kind of what they're thinking, what they might be feeling, and you can anticipate what it is that we need to cover and how it is that you need to support them. For example, I worked in hospice and medical social work for a long time. So now when I have clients come in to me in private practice and they've experienced a big loss, right? Or they've experienced a health crisis and they don't really know what to do. They're unsure. They don't know where to navigate. And I'll be able to say, oh, have you talked to your medical team? They should be available. You can call this number. Have you been able to talk to your doctor about this concern? Here's how to bring it up to them, right? Have and be able to advocate for, like, teach them how to advocate for themselves, because that's not a skill that you necessarily learn ever. And the medical systems are not going to teach you that. But me having that experience, I know what it is that they need to do. And I can help them out that way, which in turn reduces their anxiety and helps both of us during the therapeutic process, right? So that's just an example of how working in the systems, you're able to really address that. Same thing, for example, if you worked in CPS, child protection services, or if you worked in the schools, you're able to educate parents and kids about what the rights are, what the common resources are, what the common roadblocks are going to be, right? So it just helps to establish, one, your confidence, and establish your client's trust in your skills and that you know what the heck you're talking about, right? So let's talk about how to know if private therapy is not for you. So, one, and you can fight me on this, if you don't have any experience working in the field, right? If you are brand new to social work, say you came in from another field, you were a waitress, great job, love my waitresses. But if you don't have any experience in the field and you're like, I just want to go straight to the couch and listen to people's problems and help them solve them, right? That's going to be really difficult. And social work, again, may not be the place for you, because we are about how do we impact systems that our clients live in and how do we understand them and really know how to guide our clients through these systems. So, getting that foundation of experience and training and documentation and clinical interventions, all of that's going to be very, very important. Next, if you enjoy adrenaline, excitement, working in the field, being out in the community, this is not going to be the job for you, because you're going to be sitting behind your computer, probably bored out of your mind that you were just here at home by yourself, or that, you know, that you're not getting that interaction with people. There's not this interaction with colleagues that you're going to get working as a team or in an office or out in the field, right? If you are not disciplined, and if you are the kind of person who likes it when people are following up with them, who needs to be held accountable, who needs to be checked in with, then this is going to be a struggle for you, because there's no one here to do that. It's just you, right? So you have to be able to be disciplined. And if you're not, that is fine. There are plenty of other therapeutic based jobs that you can do. And if you need examples of jobs that you can do with your social work degree, definitely hop on my email list. The link is there in the show notes. But I tell you that because I will automatically send you a list of over 100 jobs that you may qualify for if you have your master's in social work. So definitely go and do that, because it'll give you some ideas. If, teletherapy is just one job that you can do, there's over 99 other jobs that you can do on there. So do not get discouraged. If teletherapy is something that you are interested in, that you want to learn more about, here are some next steps that you can take. One, if you are new to the field, learn all that you can where you're at, right? Maximize the resources that you have right now, meaning learn as much as you can about the client population that you're serving right now. Even if you decide, like, hey, this isn't my jam, everyone is connected, right? So no matter if you're working with children, working with adults, working with women, working with people who have addiction, all of these social issues are connected to each other. And the more that you can learn about each issue, the better you're going to be at supporting clients when they come in for private therapy, because they might come in to see you for depression, or a kid might have ADHD. But you also learn that maybe they're in a domestic violence situation. Maybe they've had a run in with the law and they're still battling legal issues, right? Maybe they do have a chronic health condition that's impacting their ability and their mental health, right? So all of these are definitely connected. And the more that you can learn about where you are right now and the populations you're serving right now, maximize that time. If there's trainings that come up, take advantage of those trainings, because that's how you're going to learn who you like to work with, what your niche is actually working with them, right? You don't know if you like to work with a certain population if you don't have that experience. So make sure you're learning all that you can where you are. Explore additional trainings for specialties and expertise that spark your interest. And make sure you're utilizing clinical supervision the most that you possibly can. This is an amazing opportunity for you to have access to a licensed clinician that can guide you through your career, that can be a mentor, that can be a support for you, that can help you process all of your stuff. Because I know you got stuff. I know you have stuff that happened in the past, right? We all do. And social workers have a higher than average ACE score, meaning that social workers in general have been experienced to more trauma than the general population, right? So that is kind of a brief overview of what it is that is important for you to know if you're considering being a teletherapist. And if you have any questions or if you have any feedback for me, you can always reach out to me. I'm on social media, Social Workers Rise. Make sure you get on the email list, because that's where I communicate with you the most, where I send you updates about the podcast. I will send you the list of social work jobs. I send you trainings and discounts and tools and freebies and information on the courses that I offer for social workers. So make sure to get on that email list. That's your next step. And also, too, the therapy company that I mentioned, Rula, they are accepting new licensed therapists. So if that is something that you are interested in, let me know, send me a message, and I'll kind of answer your questions about what my experience has been like. And if that's something that you want to do and join the organization, then I can definitely send you a referral and help you get your foot in the door there. So that is it. If this episode was helpful for you at all, or if you know someone who is interested in going into private therapy, into telehealth, definitely send them this message. Open up your phone right now and click the little share button on the podcast and just text it to them or send it to them via Instagram or whatever it is that you use. But just go ahead and text it right now so that you don't forget. Help somebody out. We're not about gatekeeping information here. So, all right, that is it, my friend. I am Catherine. Thank you for listening to the Social Workers Rise podcast. Thank you for listening to another episode of Social Workers Rise. If you love this episode, be sure to subscribe and text this episode to a friend. If you want more, there are a few ways we can get to know each other and work together. First, definitely subscribe to the Friday resource email list. The link is in the show notes. And that's where you can learn more about the courses I offer, including Clinical Essentials for the Future Therapist and the Pulse Basics for Medical Social Workers. I'll also be sending out occasional tips and resources and other happenings within the social work industry. And for all your clinical supervision needs, be sure to visit risedirectory.com. This is a national directory of clinical supervisors for social workers, and we also provide free resources that you can use within your own clinical supervision. Lastly, if you have more individualized needs, I do offer coaching, individual consultations, and am available for public speaking engagements for social workers and change makers. Lastly, the boring legal stuff, but very important. The information in this podcast is not meant to be a supplement for therapy, professional advice, or clinical supervision. This content is provided as is solely for informational purposes. It is not legal, health, or safety advice. I am not advising you as a therapist. Organizations should engage their own experts to ensure any adopted measures are compliant with applicable laws and standards in their jurisdictions. The opinions expressed by individuals or organizations are their own and do not reflect the views or opinions of Social Workers Rise or Catherine Moore. References to specific products or organizations do not constitute any endorsement or recommendations by Social Workers Rise.